Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fine Leg Files. Red ball cricket has been played in this country since 1880 and is one of the oldest sports to be played. However, in the modern era it is being tested. With the emergence of T20 franchise cricket and the control of cricket globally by India, some might say Test match cricket has lost its place in this country. In today's episode, we'll discuss the importance of red ball cricket and whether it can survive. Today, I'm joined by University of Leeds cricket player Sam Clark.
Hello.
So, firstly, Sam, tell us how you got into cricket. If you play cricket for uni but just tell us about your cricketing background.
So I started quite late. I think I was 14, 15. So when COVID started, I started playing cricket because I had nothing else to do. Then just as we came out of lockdown, I joined my local team because my mates played for them. So yeah, I was at a state school, not private, so it's quite rare that actually happens. But then since then I've played every summer, and then I've gone obviously to uni now and tried out and got into the team.
So a couple of things that I want to get your opinion on first is, do you enjoy watching red ball cricket?
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy going to test matches, which I'm doing this summer. I'm very excited for, and just sitting down watching it all day. But even like county championship games, been to a few of them. That's quite enjoyable. It's a full day. It's cheap to go to. It's really good cricket.
So would you say that you prefer watching red ball cricket over white ball cricket, or do you think you'd still rather go and watch T20s?
I don't know. I prefer watching 5 days of red ball cricket because there's more story to it rather than just the ball getting hit all over the place. While that's enjoyable, and I enjoy watching that, sometimes there's it's almost like two separate games. I quite enjoy going to watch 5 days of 4 days of cricket and just sitting there and watching it. It creates a whole different storyline.
So I sat down with former Devon County cricketer and England amateur Nick Gaywood to get his thoughts on the topic.
I'm a big fan of red ball cricket. I think it's historically been the lifeblood of cricket. I think it's the breeding ground for test cricketers, and I wish it had a higher profile and was played more regularly throughout the summer. I don't like this early season bit in particular. It's the wrong time of year for me. But there we are.
So with that being said, do you think the scheduling of especially county championship is making it harder for the tournament to be successful?
Yes, it's not the only thing, but I think it's scheduled at the wrong time. But we have a massive problem in world cricket because India are sort of bossing things, and their IPL and the other franchises that are controlled by the IPL, the scheduling of those dictate to a certain extent what counties can do. We can't get the players in our county championship we would like to make it the standard we'd need it to because they've got IPL commitments and contracts, and India control everything. I mean, they're the wealthiest cricket country by miles, and they're running the show now.
Yeah, so with that being said, do you think, obviously with all the IPL contracts, do you think more England Test players should be doing like what Harry Brook and Ben Duckett have done, especially this summer, sort of not going to the IPL and sort of focusing more on red ball cricket and county championship?
Yes, I would like to see them do that. I think it's been really interesting this summer already. We're lucky because of we're talking early April, and we've so far managed to get nearly 2 rounds sort of completed, and with some disruption, but minimal disruption. And that's been beneficial. If we'd not had those games, I mean, where would we be in terms of England preparing players for a test series? And I still see county cricket, part of its function is to prepare people for test cricket. So we need the highest standard we can get, and it has to be as close to the final test product in level as it can. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't.
So, still on about the county championship, what do you think it needs to do in order to get more people going? Because obviously, bar a couple of counties, the attendance isn't as high as what you'd see for like an England Test match, for example. So do you think we need more England Test players in, or do you think we just need to try and revamp the county championship completely?
I think we've got to try and find a way of getting some even better players into the county championship. Don't get me wrong, there's some great players there, but we've got to try and raise that standard. Part of me thinks that maybe it does need to be thinned down at professional level. So you and this is very controversial, but do you actually take the best 8 teams in the country and put all of your top players in those 8 teams and play a very intense 4-day competition? You've then got to schedule it away from Test matches and IPL, so I don't know where you put it in, but that would be good. Your issue is there's a lot of people love the county championship, but that love of it doesn't result in big crowds. It's more that people follow it. People of my era will have followed it in the paper. You followed the cricket scores. Now we're following it on BBC Sport, and the commentaries are great. People listen, I think, to the regional commentaries that you have for all the county games. But it's a very, it's a real delicate one. I wonder if there's some sort of system whereby you had, before Test matches, there was a series of matches between, I don't know, 2 or 3 teams of the best players that weren't in the county championship per se, but were almost trial matches, sort of North versus South, or something that gave it an intensity that prepared people for what they're about to experience in a Test match. Because it does seem, I'm very lucky. I get access to people's thoughts that play at this level. And I know on occasions I've heard some of the top batters saying they're facing too many 75-mile-an-hour bowlers. That's not what they get in Test matches. They're all above 80, hitting the pitch, and the minute it gets to about 85, 86, 87, that's where you're playing Test match cricket. And they need to be exposed to that more. And then I hear I've had it from people I know that umpire at the highest level, that the Division 1 is a decent standard. They themselves have been a good level of player. And they say, no, it's a good standard still. And you still hear positive things from overseas players that are very complimentary about it. So it's not far off, but it needs a higher priority and that increase in intensity if it's to be the useful breeding ground stroke preparation ground for our Test match team. But people still love it as it is. I just don't think they like to see it in early April.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked a little bit about the scheduling and how county championship is sort of start of the summer or even before the summer and then after the summer. So do you think that, white ball competitions in this country and red ball county championship can both survive and almost thrive at the same time?
Yeah, I would like to think that they could do. I'm not a fan of the 100, not because of its format, actually. That's not the issue. I don't think we needed 2 T20 type competitions. I'd like to still say a stick. I thought the Vitality Blast, from my understanding, was doing quite well commercially. The counties were getting good crowds, and I don't know why we needed another one. I would have liked to have seen them build on that. I think it's ludicrous that we don't have a proper 50-over competition when we were world champions, and then the last time we played it, we looked dreadful because we've not had a decent domestic 50-over competition. So I'd like to see all 3. I think all 3 forms are great, but I don't think you need 2 forms of T20 cricket. I think that's I'd much rather see different cricket in those time slots when whether it's the Blast that goes or the 100 that goes. I'd prefer to keep the Blast personally, because the county loyalties, it's where you develop the county loyalties, actually.
Thank you for that, Nick. So one of the things that I wanted to dive deeper in is the 100. The 100 is England's second short format competition. And with the introduction of IPL teams this year, do you think that there is a need for 2 short format competitions? Obviously, we've got the T20 Blast, which I would say is quite successful. Do we actually need the 100 in this country?
I would say for maybe it's a different situation whether you look at it from the men's side or the women's side. I think for the women's side of cricket, it's been massive because the women's players have got more money, they've had more investment into the game, they've had the opportunity to showcase their talents on the same level as men's cricket, and I think that's really developed the game. It's got families into it as well. Then I say for the men's side, I think there's an argument for and against it. To be honest, I think you could say for it, like you get some of the best players in the world come over and play it. So that's and if you're always playing with or against the best, it's always gonna improve your ability and our cricketing talent across the country. But then I guess you could also say that other competitions suffer because of the 100, like the One Day Cup that is on usually at the same time. You don't see half as good players playing in that as you do in the 100, which obviously isn't great for players in the One Day Cup that want to improve, etc.
So earlier on this week, I sat down with Yorkshire Under-19s player Charlie Taylor to get his thoughts on all of this. Okay. So what is your opinion on red ball cricket in this country?
Well, for me, it's my favourite format of the game. I think it's still very much the core of cricket in this country. I think a main thing when I'm playing it from a batting point of view is it teaches batsmen how to score big runs and bat for like long periods of time, which obviously the white ball game doesn't offer. And same from a bowling point of view, especially almost like quick ball. In the T20 game, you're bowling 4 overs max, whereas in the red ball games, you could be bowling 20, 30 sets in the game. So it teaches bowlers how to bowl long spells and how to bowl when you've got niggles and all those kind of things. So I think it's still very much the core of English cricket, and I think it will remain to be, as much as all the franchises and everything in the world are offering all this money. I still think that red ball cricket will remain pretty central.
So obviously you play for Yorkshire. Is the idea of playing the longer formats still more appealing to than white ball cricket games?
I think I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Others might have other opinion, but I love to play all of it. I do enjoy all 3 formats, and they all offer something just a bit different. Coming straight, just finished a red ball game, had 3 days up in Scarborough, and that is at the start of the year, your body's still adjusting to playing day after day as opposed to just training. So those kind of things about doing it over such a long period of time, you're out there for 8 hours and stuff like that, you don't get obviously in the short format, but the short format obviously offers the crowds, all the kind of other exciting add-ons you get with that. I really enjoy fielding, especially in white ball cricket. I feel like you're always in the game, and it's all the fundamentals are the same, but you just tweak things slightly differently with your game. But yeah, to answer your question, I think playing all formats is a real main thing for a lot of guys nowadays.
So speaking about short format games, do you think the 100 has been successful, or do you think we maybe should have just kept the T20 Blast as the only T20 format in this country?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of chat around the 100 and a lot of different opinions on it. Typically, you get the older guys not getting around it as much, but I think it's a real good thing from a kind of an awareness point of view over like the whole cricketing world. It pulls people in from different walks of life, and I particularly think that if you look at how it's actually set up with having the men's and women's game right next to each other, on the same day after each other, I think for the women's game will just keep rising. I mean, they can have more professional women's players, which is also great. They've had a real big push on that in the last couple of years. I think another good thing is obviously you've got franchises in other parts of the world like the IPL, the Big Bash, which sometimes will highlight Indian players who have an amazing tournament. I think that does the same thing for English players. Maybe people are getting picked up either at like a base price or as a wild card pick after the T20 Blast is done. That's when people's careers can really change, and they can earn some really life changing money, kind of hopping from franchise to franchise. That's what they choose to do. So overall, yeah, I think it's just great for cricket in general.
So now moving on to more county championship, do you think the scheduling of the games makes it harder for the championship to be successful? Obviously, you're starting before summer and you're playing after summer. There's no real games in between like the June, July and August stage because of the amount of white ball cricket being played.
So I think it can sometimes be hard for the standard to remain high as you get all these injuries coming in. You get little niggles, especially in the quick bowlers. So you do get a lot of squad rotation nowadays, which again you're not necessarily always having your starting 11, which you would choose to have. But I think it just depends. You've got players on the road a lot as well. There's a lot of travelling involved in the Champo. You've got travel down on the Sunday night, Monday train, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday game, just for an example. So you've got a lot of travelling involved. So it does take its toll on the body as players. But then I also do think that having the longer season also shows that you can have you can judge players over a much wider period of time. Because for example, if you only had 8 games in the season, then you'd only be judged on those games. So having the more games in the year means that you've got a wider range of results. And when people like Brendan McCullum and stuff are looking at picking out next up and coming things, they can look at many games as opposed to only a few. So that could be a positive of the scheduling at the moment.
Yeah, and talking about Brendan McCullum, do you think that more England Test players should be playing in the Championship?
I think it's tough, that question, because I think what people do forget is these boys are going on tour, they're playing cricket all year round. So when you're then asking them to come back in April time and play the first Champo games, they might have just come off franchise, and that few weeks leading up to the season is their off time. So I think whereas obviously other county players, that's when their training and everything's really ramping up. So I think people do forget that. However, I do think that it could be used a little bit more, as we saw in preparation to the Ashes. Example of like Mark Wood, who got injured more or less straight away after, I'm pretty sure he didn't play a Champo game for Durham, but then he went and played at Lilac Hill in the friendly against the Lions, I think it was. Bowled a few overs there and then went straight into the first test. So I don't know how good of a preparation that really is. So I think both batsmen and bowlers could use it. I think batsmen, obviously, I'm in the middle in games is far more valuable. So turning out to the county would be another good way to prepare for it. However, there's that balance. But then especially from the bowling side of you, like match overs are far more beneficial than practice overs. You can't replicate the competitive edge or anything that you get during the game. But then also you've got, as everything's ramping up now, you've got workload management. So it's a real weighing up the pros and cons of to whether they play, especially early on in the season.
So, 2 completely different perspectives there on the game, and if I'm being honest, we can't argue with the points both Nick and Charlie have made there. So one of the questions I wanted to ask them both about was about England Test players playing in the Championship. So, after listening to that, I want to ask you as well, Sam. Do you think England players should be playing in the Championship, or do you think the scheduling makes it impossible to do this?
I would say it's quite difficult because I think each player obviously works in their own way. I think some will work by playing cricket non-stop and never stopping. So like you see Jamie Smith, he's got a lot of runs at the start of this county championship season. Then you could also look at like Harry Brook. He's not played a single game, and I think he's only scheduled to play one game before the Test series against New Zealand in June. So you could look at it from two separate ways. I think it's a good thing if they play because obviously it increases the standards of county championship, and it also gets fans through the door, which I guess at the end of the day is the main point of the county championship, and it helps clubs keep going if you get fans through the door.
So moving on to something a little bit different here, I want to talk about Bazball. So when McCullum took over 3 or 4 years ago now, he completely changed the way that England played Test cricket. However, with the disastrous Ashes in the winter, do you think that Bazball is actually helping Test cricket, or do you think it's actually hindering it?
I think that Bazball is helping us play cricket because I think it helps the survival of the games for maybe 2-3 different ways. I think mainly you can see like there's no arguing that the performances haven't improved under Brendan McCullum. I think we're winning more Test matches. Yes, we haven't won the big series, but that first summer I think we won 8 Test matches, I think, out of 9 or something like that. And I just think that shows how important Brendan McCullum is in the system. I also think it's helping Test cricket as well because, like, you look now and all the Test matches sell out. I think that was a big issue before Brendan McCullum came in. Obviously, England weren't doing very well. I think as soon as he came in and they were playing this positive style of cricket, I think people wanted to go and see it and experience it for themselves. And I think that's just driven ticket sales, and then obviously that helps the clubs and so on. I'd also say you could say it's hindering Test cricket because, like, a traditional point of view is, it's not proper cricket, but everyone's licensed and everyone's allowed to play in their own way. Other teams have always done it. I think Australia in the 2000s used to play, maybe not Bazball, but they definitely played more positive and attacking cricket. And also, I think you've got to say that, it's worked for England and it's boosted ticket sales in England, so I can't really see a negative.
So I also asked both Nick and Charlie, so we'll get those views on that.
I think it's a bit of a myth, and I have some sympathy for McCullum, who can't stand the word Bazball. It's an attractive, positive way of playing cricket and taking the game to the opposition, and they got some fantastic results early on, and it just needed, and it has done for a while, just modifying a little bit in terms of there's 5 days. Yeah, let's go hard at certain periods. Let's try and win from positions when people never thought you could. That's great for the cricket. But I think you've got to be part of the skill of a 5-day match is that there's 5 days and the pitch changes and it's physically very demanding. And much though I've enjoyed seeing England beat Australia in 2 days in Melbourne, it would have been really nice to have had a 3rd or a 4th day's cricket and seen them slugging it out and seeing what happens as they get tired, as the pitch deteriorates. It's the best form of cricket. It's absolutely brilliant. And that everything that can change over that length of time makes it more interesting. So I think Bazball's, to forget what is Bazball, it was very, very positive attacking cricket, but it hasn't resulted in wins of series. That's what you're trying to do. We've never been in the World Test Championship final.
I think people are quick to say, this Bazball's not working anymore or whatever. But I think people do forget how poor we actually were at Test cricket only a couple of years ago. I think it's definitely changed the way that people view the England cricket team, and possibly changed the whole way in which they're trying to play the game. But I think it's going back to that since Stokes and him have been together, more or less, obviously apart from maybe the last Ashes series, it's been on an upward trajectory, and people didn't really know how to combat it.
Well, that is all we have time for on this episode. I want to thank all three of my guests, and I will see you next time on Fine Leg Files.